My favourite sections in Unite, which is the example of different uses of Unity out in the wild. So we've got some very interesting presentations this afternoon. The first presentation is from Bob from Pixel Placement. He's going to talk about an augmented reality project he did for Ford. Thank you.
Alright, hello everybody. I'm just going to give you guys a brief case study of what we did for Ford of Canada. They needed an augmented reality exhibit to show at the Francopholies, which is apparently a fairly large music concert that goes on in Canada. So, alright, a little bit about me. My name is Bob Merkabile. That last name has prompted me to be better known in the forums as Pixel Placement. I did iTween, Stress Ball, a couple other things to kind of help out with development. In addition, I've done a lot of development tools and shortcuts for the augmented reality library called String. Been partnering with them for a long time, so I've helped them out along the way. In addition, I am the Interactive Creative Director at Holy Entertainment, where I see the overall day-to-day craziness going on there. In addition, I'm also the lead developer. Alright, so when Ford came to us, we pretty much immediately saw 4 challenges that creeped up immediately. The first being time. I believe from when they came to us and asked us to do this to when it needed to actually be out the door and at the exhibit, it was roughly 3 weeks. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to put this together. That included modeling, concepting, and programming all the way out the door and getting it out to the actual exhibit space. Like I said, this is a mobile augmented reality project. So it in itself brought on some challenges. Because at this time, it was still fairly early on in String's development cycle, so we were helping push their technology and helping them hone things. So there was that aspect of it, and how we would actually present what they wanted for us to do. And then video. At the end of the day, the core of this project was to show broadcast video in a new way. Ford wanted to kind of see and test the waters of what it would be like to try to use traditional advertising mechanisms in a new medium, which is obviously augmented reality. And so we needed to figure out a good way to present video in 3D space. As we know, there's nothing yet for mobile video texture, so we need to come up with a nice, good, solid presentational mechanism for that to make that work. And location. We had 3 weeks. We're in Baltimore. This presentation was in Canada. We had no way to get to the exhibit space. We had no way to get to the car. We didn't know what we were actually dealing with. We didn't know if it was outside, inside. Details were very sparse in the beginning. So that forced us to make a system that could be flexible, that the actual presenters could adjust things on the fly so that no matter what it was going to be in the end, it was going to work. So that was definitely a big challenge as well. Alright, so like I said, it was we chose String for the augmentation of it. Since we have a partnership with String, it was no-brainer since we actually got the project through them that it was going to be String Ford. In addition, this was very early on in the year, and Qualcomm's iOS solution was not available yet, so that's why we went with String for this. Let's see here. Okay, so next challenge being video. We started off with Sprite Manager, which is a fantastic base to work from. We learned an amazing amount for how to tackle texture-based and UV-based animation. So that's kind of where we started. But we noticed fairly early on that Sprite Manager kind of has a fire and forget mentality, which is not bad at all. It's the way it's supposed to be performed. But since we were showing video, it was imperative that the audio and the video were synced at all times. In addition, we were showing this content in an augmented reality space, and we were asking a lot of the device. So we had to figure out a way to make sure they were always in sync at all time. And by the way, it was never in the asset store. This was, the Apple store, because this was a real specific exhibit, so we actually just test flighted the project to them, and it was only to be shown on iPads, so we were fairly aware of the hardware we needed to deal with. Another thing about Sprite Manager for approaching this is the timeline setup that Sprite Manager uses, where you have to drag in each of your frames and then build your atlases from there, which is great, but when you have a client with a very short deadline who's making changes at the last minute, it was fairly tedious and a little bit painful to adjust things. The actual project was in French. We don't none of us speak French, so we were making mistakes left and right with the actual footage. So setting up those timelines was a little bit tough. So in the end, we actually took what we learned from how Sprite Manager tackles animation, and we actually built our own solution for this, whereby we could pull in a folder of image sequences, build the atlases from there, and at the end, we actually, the audio while it's playing syncs the video by a percentage of where the audio clip is, so we were guaranteed at all times to make sure audio and video were in sync, because that was imperative for this project. Alright, so like I said before, we're in Baltimore, they're in Canada, we didn't know what we were dealing with at all, so we had to be really flexible. So what we did was we leveraged the fact that at its core, augmented reality is an image recognition solution. Obviously, once you've passed the image recognition phase, you have all kinds of magic for figuring out rotation and positional data. But at its core, it is in fact just an image recognition solution. So the actual exhibit required 4 markers, one on each side of the car, to make 4 stations. And from those stations, we would augment these videos and some animations to allow people who were at this exhibit to get data about the vehicle. But what we did was we added 2 additional markers to the presentation to help us out. And the first one, I'll get to the other one later. The first one, when the application recognized that marker, it would kick the application into, a special debug mode, which allowed presenters to adjust the position and rotation from the marker, so they could have the best viewing experience for whoever was, watching this. So therefore, if they were to put a marker on, say, the trunk of the vehicle, by default, that would augment the 3D imagery parallel to that marker. What this did was it allowed the presenters to pull it off, rotate it out, and pull it up, so they could get the best experience possible, because we didn't know what lighting situations we were dealing with or what they were going to actually adjust. So this allowed them to kind of manipulate things as they went. And that was all well and good, but another problem came up was we didn't know how many iPads were going to be used. So in order for each one of the presenters to walk up and adjust things and everything where it was in sync, wasn't going to be a good, reliable solution. So we actually leveraged Prime 31, I'm sure is here, his Nectar Sync solution, whereby one iPad can be set up and we can just broadcast that solution to all of them, and then all of them are all going to be in sync from there. All right, now before I kind of show the whole thing, it is impossible to film this. We have tried to film this many times, getting the light just right. The iPad is not sufficient for overcoming, daylight, and just getting the camera right is impossible to see this. And actually, while I was developing this, because we had 3 weeks, I worked many late nights, I actually found that my 10-year-old son had a Ford Mustang remote control car. And actually, I used that and cut out smaller markers and used that around the vehicle so I could actually get a good taste of how this would work, which is actually how we presented here and how we actually put the thing together. So here is the final presentation.
When you give it one of over 10,000 horsepower,
One was the one that we utilized to kick the application into the content management system. And another one was because we're maniacs, and even though we had a short time frame, we threw in a toy for all the presenters so they could actually have fun when they had downtime. So there was virtual remote control cars that they could drive around on the stage. So that's what you saw there at the end. That was the additional marker. All right, real quick before I finish up, I think that AR has gotten a bad rap over the years. I think that's because it hasn't had a very exposed growth cycle. I think as soon as people figured out this is possible, they started showing the world. And we got to see it at its most vulnerable. Bad frame rates, slipping on the marker, pretty poor content, squares sitting in space. So I think now that we're just getting over that hump of where the technology is where we thought it could be, I think we all need to give it another try. I think that we're all developers, we're not like the rest of the world, so we we pride ourselves in trying to find out how the magic trick is done and where the strings are. And when you show this technology to the community in general, or to the world, and they're not us, jaws drop. I think it's our responsibility to make sure we keep the magic alive and give this stuff a try. The stuff that Qualcomm's doing, the stuff that String's doing, it really opens up a new canvas, and I think it's a new opportunity for us to try to push things past the gimmick. So just wanted to say I think it's an important thing. In addition to that, I think we really need to break up the classification of augmented reality into possibly vision-based augmented reality, VAR, and maybe physical-based augmented reality. What I mean by physical-based augmented reality is you can use your own physical space to move around, because I believe that augmented reality at its heart is all about seamless. It's a way of using technology to extend our world around us. So that's it, and thank you very much.